Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Earth and Star Spiritual Wellness Center. We have a very special treat for you today. You get to meet my latest twin flame, Jane, the guide. How are you, Jane?
I am so well. I'm so delighted to be referred to as a twin flame, yet not just a twin flame, but like yet another.
Another.
Yes.
Well, we're not so 3D as to think there's only ever one. There's like 144, right? The 144. Anyways, but we're seeing a good reflection. In fact, I've been on this, I don't want to say a journey, but I've been in an open space of finding more heart-centered collaborations and being open to more of a spiritual community and like-minded people, because I've come to find that as I've transitioned from simply holding space with my community locally into online communities, that there's a lot of people out there that we can connect with, even though they're not right here with us, who are direct reflections of our path and, of our heart spaces. And when I found Jane the Guide online, of course, the first things that popped out to me were quantum and cacao. Those were the two things. And I was like, I see you, girl, and I'm coming. So we ended up together. So she goes by Jane the Guide here. All of her stuff, all of her links are going to be in the descriptions below. And she does have quite a few segments in her online community called the Eternal Now. And she does things on second Thursdays, third Tuesdays, Sunday prayers. Tell us a little bit about what you do, Jane, or your offerings that you have for people who are interested.
Well, thank you for having me on here. Thank you for just welcoming me into your world and community. I'm very grateful. So thank you for this. And okay, so I want to start off with Sunday prayers because that's like this every Sunday thing. And I love it so much. And it's a 30-minute drop-in. And so I'm holding the space, but I'm not saying the prayer. But I have a structure for the prayer that was passed down to me that I learned from a Balinese priest when I was in Indonesia. And the structure has been really supportive for my own prayer and meditation practice. So I offer that. I love it so much. And that's every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know. I feel like I need a little microphone for that one. And I also have Relating with Energy. I know, yeah, right. Be like chapstick. Anyway, I have Relating with Energy, and Relating with Energy is where I get to let my inner nerd shine, because I teach all things about the subtle body, the energy body, through quantum, through space, through time, and not just teaching about the subtle body and these energy aspects of ourselves, but I guide through an activation, a clearing, a balancing, an activation, and then I offer tools for people to maintain that themselves, because I don't want to be anybody's crutch. Learn it, do it, bye, live bright, live bright.
Another mirror right there. I have literally said those words. Guys, if you're setting up sessions with me, I don't want to see you every single month for the rest of your life. I love you, but eventually I hope that you're not coming back to me with these same triggers and wounds, that we're working on different things when you come back to me. And then eventually you have the tools to do your own healing. So when you come to me, we're just maybe a little bit of guidance, or just because we love talking. So absolutely understand that perfectly.
Yes, I would much rather guide someone through the process and then become friends, as opposed to being this factor in their life that they need to feel good. Ugh. I don't want to. So that's Relating with Energy, and that's on the second Thursday in the noontime Eastern. And then I do Quantum Conversations, and this one is on the third Tuesdays of the month in the evening Eastern time. And that one is where I get to share a live transmission for what's happening in the collective. And the people that join the live are also going to greatly impact that transmission because their energy field is there with me in that vortex. So I share this transmission and then I hold the space for people to ask their questions and I respond while this channel is so valiantly open. And what's really cool is when I've heard it be called what, like being in the hot seat, when people like ask the question and they get like the transmission, the like pew 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 from channeled to them, this like
You
love
just blast
nugget
it
advice.
away.
Yeah. So it's like that, and that's been really, really fun to do that. And I'm normally when I have a base, I've held cacao ceremonies and group gatherings and circles and groups and things like that. But I've been on active pilgrimage since, well, June will be 2 years. That I just realized this date that in a couple months will be my 2-year date of when I started my pilgrimage. So that's coming to a close as I start to integrate all of it into my creation.
And you've been quite a few places on your pilgrimage.
Yeah, I have. And it's been interesting because I've planned some of them and some of them were not planned whatsoever. And I get clear directives of what to do or where to go, but never at the same time. Mm-hmm. So like I was shown to go to Costa Rica. Okay. So I go there and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to meet people. I'm going to do all the things and it's going to be fun. And it is. And I was shown to be still and listen.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, heard. I went to France and walked the Mary Magdalene path and went to most of the places where she was. I went to India and studied through the temples of the goddess and went to very small villages and got to connect with the land and the energy that the land holds after having eons of devotional prayer by the people that live there. Like the energy is so palpable. It's so good. And then I spent a good bit of time in Indonesia. Then started making my way back, hit a couple places.
That's so beautiful. But there's something about that feels nostalgic, almost like a remembering. I don't know. There's something I'm picking up in your energy about that, like the journey, even though it was like brand new to you now, it was a pilgrimage because of a remembering or an awakening that was happening, just knowing that you've walked these paths before and you've been here before and you're picking up pieces of yourself, your true self, and leaving behind everything that wasn't. And I almost see like a sacred spiral going through that as well. And you're not quite done. Are you planning to be done?
I don't know. I mean, really, like, I was shown to offer all that I knew, my identity, my home, my community, everything that I had that I identified as and with, and learn a deep sense of faith and live in the unknown, dance in the great mystery, and be in that space really, and just follow guidance in every now moment. And it's like, okay, I need to leave here now. Okay, I leave here now. And following that. And it's been interesting because I feel that is the great remembering. The great remembering is that we are eternal, here for a finite experience, remembering the creator source within and the creator source beyond, and then merging those two and being the living bridge. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the great remembering for all humans, through all cultures. It always is. It's so funny how it's always the same thing in every single culture. Different words, different practices, different meditative stances, and still the same.
Absolutely. Different cultures, different religions. That's kind of the point, is that the connecting factor between all of them just happens to be love, spirit energy. They're all kind of the same thing really at their core. And that kind of brings me to what we were talking about before we started recording. Was we were getting on the same page and on the same vibe length in the same heart space, and realized that we were both seeing reflected these cycles of essentially death or endings through the collective and through personal lives, just on different spectrums. So these could be like deaths, impending deaths, breakups, just endings in general. And Jane said, well, I just kind of spoke on transition, transformation, and how death plays a role in that.
Yes, it is. It's a key player. Like I believe that we cannot have a full-on transformation, move to the next level, like ascend, like, ooh, beep, boop, you just got the golden nugget, you get to move to the next round, unless we are willing to die. And the dying is a part of us, an identity, a way of being, an energy, a mentality, a thought form that's been encasing us, right? Whatever it is for each individual. But it's not just like, oh, whatever, I'm just going to let it go. Because although that does create a death experience, it doesn't hold the grief portal as open as it could be. And if the grief portal is fully open, then what happens is the frequency of the heart itself starts to hold a different amplitude because it has a deeper resonant tone of compassion. And the deeper realm of compassion held in the ball of grief also combines to make this energy field that we experience as joy. And yeah, and to do all of that, preluding all of that, we have to be in a space of radical acceptance. Well, the radical acceptance energy is going to be the energy that holds us in the field of peace. So then ultimately, when we allow ourselves to go through these many, many, many deaths, we start to actually evolve into the being that is the embodiment of if peace and joy had a baby, where we're clear, we're concise, we're aligned, we're whole, we're living as the Trinity here now. So these deaths, it's not like I need to stay in victim consciousness and be like, oh my God, I was such a turd. It's because of all these reasons. I'm a turd burglar. Oh my God, Becky. And be like dramatic about it. Good. I mean, you can, but some people like really hold on to that role. They don't realize that what they're holding on to isn't the thing that they're talking about, them being a turd. Rather, they're holding on to the holding on. I need to be the person that holds on. Then looking at that and being like, wow, I accept that. I realize that. Oh, I'm the person that holds on. And who would I be if I let go? Oh, well, my body is not going to be so constricted. Like my whole physical body is going to have to open. Oh my God, I got to go into a space of surrender. I've got to go into a space of trust. I got to go into the unknown because I don't know who this person would be. Because I've actually been jealous of people that could let it go. Oh, now I got to face the jealousy that I've held, or I've got to face the anger at the people outside of me that have been able to embody this part of me that I've so desperately wanted, but I've been in such resistance to, because again, I've been holding on to the why I'm not that way. So once we start to acknowledge that, then this deeper sense of acceptance comes in. That's the acceptance that allows us to really kind of just soften. And then we can start to maybe grieve the little kid that got programmed with whatever experience or trauma that created that in their field. Oh, and then the tenderoni aspect that gets to hold ourselves and be like, oh my God, you sweet thing. I feel you. I feel your heart. Oh, nobody held you in those times, and moving through this deep self-healing process, laughing at ourselves for being such a goober, for being a turd the whole time. I mean, truly. But moving through that and the grieving of what the fun grief, sarcasm, is when the people around us cannot bear witness to the person that we are becoming. Because then we have a double grieving process of, wow, I'm not accepted by my community, my tribe, my family, my bestie, my job. And can I stay true to this process of my own choice, sacrifice, suffering, pain, grief, death process, trusting in a higher faith and knowing that there is a rebirth, that I am moving toward a higher, greater, more pleasurable feeling state of being. And am I willing to let all of it go? And that's the death that we are being called to face and to feel ultimately, almost every day for some of us. And with the mind of the collective being so infiltrated with messages all over the place, it's like a vast ping pong game, bing, 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 where people's thoughts are all over the place, complete wackadoodle. So that the collective consciousness is like a minefield, explosions of anger and explosions of peace and explosions of joy. It's like sacred fireworks in the quantum field of everything. Those of us that can sit back and relax and watch the show are creating the new frequency to harmonize all those fireworks together. We're not here to put out the fireworks, we're here to harmonize it. And the harmonization of it changes the whole wave pattern as a whole. That's the new earth, in my opinion, is the way I see it. Thanks for listening to all that.
Well, there are two things that really stood out to me about what you were saying. The first one is that I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about the grief portal in that particular way. You know, we talk about how grief is a side effect of the ego death or your cycles or just death in general or letting go in general, because you're grieving what you used to have. You're just letting the old you go, and the grief process happens. But describing it that way makes it seem like a side effect versus part of the transformational process, which is what you just said. It's actually part of the transformational process. We go through grief for a reason, because it levels up our compassion and heart level space. If I heard that part, because that's what I heard.
Totally.
Totally. And the second thing, go ahead.
Well, I mean, so grief, everything is a reflection of itself in a different way. Either it's going to be like samesies or not at all. But so the reflection of grief is the capacity in which we love. I can't grieve something that I don't love. Exactly. So for me to not fully grieve is telling my heart that all the love that you did have, you know how when you tell somebody something and you say like, I love you, but blah, blah, blah. The but negates the first part. The ignoring the grief is giving the heart the but. You know, oh, I love this relationship, but I'm not really gonna grieve it. Why not? You know, it's painful. It's a sacrifice. You know, but allowing that heart to feel the depth of love, because love is also painful. That's the polarity. It's a beautiful pain. You know, it's like the BDSM of emotions. You know, it's grief. It hurts. God, give me more, but no, don't really. No. Okay, maybe a little. Ugh, you know?
I think that's the part that really keeps, just hearing different things from commenters or clients, things like that. That's really the part that keeps them from wanting to open their heart space again, is that fear of grief, the fear of being hurt, all of that kind of stuff. And I always teach that love is the opposite feeling of fear. The love and fear oppose each other, similarly to the capacity that you grieve is the capacity that you love. So yes, it's almost like when you know something is worth it enough, there's that same capacity of fear of it on the other side. So fear is what you have to walk through in order to reach those deep love spaces, in order to find the thing that's worth it.
Yes. I heard you say something on one of your videos about fear being a motivator, like using fear as a motivational tool, you know, like in the highest good, of course, right? And it's kind of like that. It's like, okay, so I'm afraid to get into a new relationship because I might fall in love and it might hurt again. Okay, and do it anyway. Like you get this body once. Psh, like let it experience all the pleasure it can and trust that the pain that will come with grace, joy, and ease. It doesn't
Mm.
have to weigh us down as much, especially as we start to like regain resources, remember our resources. Then we don't get sucked into the grief portal. We get to just like be like, oh, I'm in the grief portal. Whoa. Okay, I'm out.
When you come
As
out,
a
you're
young
a
girl.
bigger, better version.
Totally.
And one of the first things I taught on publicly was a little bit about what you just said of how sometimes we fear so much the next hurt, the next heartbreak, the next negative experience that people get to the point where they don't even want to incarnate again. They're like, I don't want to be on earth anymore. This is too much. There's too much to feel. There's too much to be hurt by. And that was one of the first things I said is if you do not want to reincarnate again because you don't like this experience, you've missed the point of life. When you're here to have all of these spectrums of experiences, not just the ones that you deem positive. And if we're stuck in negative experiences, there's a reason that we're stuck there and needing to shift back. And in this context, it's almost like we can't be so afraid to reincarnate within this incarnation, our ego death, our leveling up that happens, that we hold ourselves back from reincarnating again as well, because we need to go through it. The entire collective is leveling up right now, and we're part of that. We have to let ourselves surrender and go with it.
Yes. And the reincarnating all the time, this leveling up all the time that I am choosing to do. I am willing to do it. It is a choice. That's aligning all my energy centers of like, yes, I'm empowered. I am choosing to do this. Great. And I have like two thoughts coming in. I'm going to go back to this other thought because it's just like a little snippet. So I saw something, and I'm not going to quote it because I'm not good at that stuff. But it was something like, if you're hating life, then like good luck, right? Like you're going to be living forever. And that could be multiple incarnations, or just like the life that like every day is 20 days long, right? But when we actually fully embrace life and just like love it so much, that's when we know we're ready for the next level, which is death. We're ready to move on to the next, to spirit realm, or whatever the next case is for whoever believes whatever. And going back, and so that ties that in, because I believe that everything begins with belief. We have to believe it before we see it. And so if someone believes like, okay, well, there's a heaven and a hell, and I experience that after I die, well, and so it is, some people believe that we have multiple lifetimes and we incarnate over and over and over again. And so it is. Some people believe like it's a one and done. And so it is. And I want to really honor that is just as much of a truth as anything else.
Mm.
That like whatever the believer believes makes it so.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's in our higher mind believing it, or like the lower psyche, the lower brainstem regions that are like the silent echoes of whatever. For me, I've done many journeys with medicines and without medicines, with practitioners and without. And I always go back to the same deep understanding for myself, and that this is my first time being a human. This is my first time incarnated. When I went back to the beginning of time, as time was Jane, I was in the nebulous as the nebulous, floating as the nothingness, and just aware of nothing but awareness as itself. And then I came into a tube of light, and I presented myself here on earth, and I was given my mission. And now I'm here. Like, this is it. And yet, because the way I work in the shamanic realms, I can go to any timeline and be there in any now moment. So I can go into Pleiadian, Lemurian. I can go into the indigenous tribe around the fire. I can go into the jungles while someone's taking their ayahuasca journey and be with them on their path. And I can go into your great grandma's experience and timelines. I can be the one that was murdered violently and strangled, and I can do all that, and I can do the healing work that comes with that. Mm-hmm. What I believe, some people believe, is that they have a longer time experience, like they have a whole birth, life, death cycle as these embodied past lives. Mm-hmm. Mine are just blips because it's all now. So I'm like, I can go there.
It's like living as every single person on earth and experiencing every single experience there is, but it's all happening right now in this moment because up there time doesn't exist. It's all folded into one Jane experience.
Yeah. It's all now.
And just doing it all. I love that. I love that perspective. I love it. Absolutely love it. And even the surrendering of everything, like you were talking about, I had that thought just the other day that it's like the more people push and rail against something, because nobody likes the word surrender. Everybody hates that word. Chapstick. Everybody hates the word surrender. But the more we rail against something, the less we seem to get it. And it's like, we're taking a moment here. And it's the more, once we, if we're wanting to move forward, or we're wanting to move and it's not really coming, or if we're wanting to get this job and it's not really coming, or if we're wanting this relationship and it's not really coming, like what discontent do we have now that the universe is trying to teach us to be content in now before we get the next thing? And so it's almost that discontent of where we are that's keeping us where we are. And then the surrender part comes in, where we learn to find joy where we are. We learn to be happy where we are. We learn to find, to fill our space with our energy and cultivate this garden where we are. And then the pathway opens up, and it's not the opposite of that at all, ever. We're content here, and then the next thing opens its way for us. There was a thing earlier that you said. Remember, I said there were two things that you said that I wanted to touch on. One was grief not as a side effect, but as a transformational tool. And one was this fear that I feel sometimes people have when they're in their death cycles, where it's compounded because they fear they're never going to get out of it. They fear that this is just what their life looks like now. They don't have the capacity when they're in that emotion space to see that they're ever going to feel joyful again. And some of these are really big experiences, like the deaths of people or things like that, or breakups, like I said, and they just can't see what life is going to be like on the other end, or how they're so transformed now that they're going to be more powerful or more loving or more compassionate. So that compounds that fear exponentially, that there's nothing to grasp onto, there's nothing to hold. I'm just free falling. I don't know where I am. My life is always going to be this way. It's just this, and that's the space you have to surrender into, like going down Alice's rabbit hole. And that's the scariest hole to fall into.
It really is. What I just saw in my head, falling down this like spiraling hole. It's like, if we aren't in a space of surrender, right? When we're in a space and energy of surrender, literally our whole nervous system and our physical body shifts, and we actually become more calm, right? And so then we can actually start to think more clearly. We're not running in the frantic, confused mindset. Just surrendering to it doesn't mean we have to give up and give into it. It literally is just telling the body it's okay. It is okay. It's going to be, I don't even know. I don't even care today. But what I saw was going down this chute. If I'm all rigid and frantic, then you ever seen a kid go down a slide and they like bop their head? Ding, 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 ding. Yeah. It's like that, it's like you're just hitting yourself upside the head. But if you just surrender, then you just bloop, you can go down. you know, and you don't have to hurt yourself so much. Because here's the thing, we all hit the rock bottom. That's where the grief portal starts to catapult us up.
Mm-hmm.
And the surrender, I find that ultimately the surrender that people have such a fear to surrendering into is the surrendering into death. And until we can truly surrender into death, I believe that we continue to miss the fullness of life, because we start to then struggle and concern ourselves about a timeline that's not actually a reality yet, but we're going to focus on it so much that we make it happen because we're fearing it. It's like bringing it to us like a magnet. Oh, why do we do that, humans? And but it's the, like, when I can surrender so fully into death that my body literally shifts itself. I open up, and then I allow myself to experience a mini death. And I might actually be filled with the Holy Spirit. I might be filled with the most divine light, the most gracious sense of peace. I might actually be lifted up in the arms of God and go to the heavens above and let the angels sing and dance around me, because I've given up everything that was in my mind. I've given up suffering. I've given up pain. I've given up ideas. I've given up to the notion that my life is just a complete shit show. Okay, it just is. And then my body can at least relax, and maybe I get a good nap out of it. Worst case scenario. Best case scenario is that I wake up. You know, I wake up.
Acceptance plays a huge role in that, accepting that this is now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's two words that you say that I kind of like, and it's now and. I don't know why those two words that you say stand out for me, but it's like the now and understanding all is now, but also it's just now. And that ellipses there, because we also know it's also the opposite of everything we just said when we look at things from the 3D, but then also from the 9D, from the God self to the human self. There's that paradox that happens.
And I think that, you know, as we continue to grow and evolve our spiritual aspect, we can live in the neutral space of the paradox, so that we can live amongst the light, the dark, the black, the white, the heavy, the light, the masculine, feminine, sun, moon, day, night, whatever you want to call it, the yin, the yang. We live in the Wu Wei. And that's what Christ always taught. You know, he's like, you know, like, yeah, these people are trying to kill me, you know, forgive them, because like they don't even know what they're doing. It hurts, but like I pity the fool, you know. But it's being in the center of the paradox. And I feel that many people that are evolving and growing on their spiritual path and journey, that are starting to recognize, oh yes, I chose to incarnate as human amongst a land of polarity. Well, then now what? You know, how do I use this in my daily without just being numb? You know, I think that some people can go into the numb space. Well, it's just not this, it's not that. And numb is such a big feeling that isn't really given the credit that it's due. But we're not made to feel numb. We're made to feel all of it. But can I feel? This to me is the multidimensional aspects that we're evolving into, is can I feel both? Can I feel grief and joy at the same time? Do I have to vacillate between the two? And I'm in grief until I'm able to get out, and then I can feel joy, and I don't want to go to grief again. Okay. But can I just hold them both? Yes, of course we can. That to me is the next step of our evolutionary development, is how many energies, frequencies, realms of consciousness, emotions can we hold at once while maintaining integrity of the Most High, connected here to Pachamama, continuing to be stewards of land, continuing to create, continuing to make music and to laugh and to sing and be, you know, truly human. That's the work. So fun. What a fun game. Like, like, come on, y'all. It's a fun game. This human thing is dope. Oh, it's such a challenge. It's like Tetris when you get to the higher levels and like the speed gets all like fast.
You don't have anywhere to put the block.
Exactly.
I was almost envisioning what you were saying, and of course, nothing's quite this linear, but like if this is us and this is the 3D, so this is human us as the 3D, and then we have the 9D, which is our God self, and then Jane says, you can be right here in the middle, guys. You don't have to do this and then let go of this in order to experience this, or do this and let go of this in order to experience this, which keeps us you in a state of swinging back and forth constantly. I was going to say something about bipolar, but that's not nice, and that's not what I meant. Just back and forth constantly. Our energy becoming bipolar is what I meant. It's, up, down, up, down, up, down, rather than just being to be right in the middle, which is our 6D self, which is our higher self, which is our creator self. And we can sit as the Holy Spirit self between our God self and our human self and just feel both sides at once instead of swinging back and forth. I think this is a beautiful diagram.
That is pretty much the most accurate. Like, you don't even need graph paper. That was so accurate. But it's true. It's so true. I mean, that's the way I see that as a truth. And in that 0 point, that 0 point is infinite and finite at the same time.
Yes.
As we are. It's being in the center of a crosshair. And this is what I love. Okay, so this is where I also get nerdy, and I love it. I can feel it. Gamma waves activate. Anyway, so that 0 point. So when we're on these axes, right? So we've got the Y and we've got the X. And when we're at the 0 point, oh, it's like my amber ring. We're at the 0 point. Bing bong. And when we're at that 0 point, when we live via the heart, which is also the center point, and if we also look at our chakras, just the internal, if we go with the 7 in body, just those alone, the 7 in body, when they're all in harmonic resonance, I'll say in full alignment, then the 0 point in each of the chakras will also be at their own 0 point. So then you have all these 0 points lining up. So that's the Kundalini rise, the Sushumna Nadi, right? And so that energy channel is literally, it's not necessarily with a direction of movement, moving up or down. It's the emanation. It's just the beingness of this 0 point light. So back to the axes. So I'm on the axis, my 0 point, my whole self is lit. And what happens is that I then live on a 5th dimensional axis. It's the Z axis. So the Z axis is what comes out. So we've got this. The Z is going to come out like this. And it's the way mirrors work. When we look at a mirror, the only way the mirror reflection reflects is through the Z axis. And that's why when you hold up a word that you write, it's not backward. It's not upside down. It's a reflection. There's no other way to do it unless we go onto the Z axis. And the Z axis is only prevalent when we start to get into the 5th dimensional field of time and space. And the 5th dimensional field is where the Christ consciousness starts to be sensed, embodied. Like we feel it with our senses. We become it. We see it, we taste it. We become the living blessing more than the living prayer.
I want to rewind for 2 seconds. Okay. Everything that you just said, you can pretty much do a mic drop, honestly. Where's your chapstick? Drop it. I didn't actually mean to drop mine, but I did. But that was your mic drop, because I heard so much in what you just said. But I want to back it up just a second. Hold to what you just said. Now we're going to bring that into simpler terms for a second, because things that a lot of people and a lot of healers and teachers and psychics have been teaching on lately is how we're currently in the process of cleaning up our 4th dimensional space in order to move into our 5th dimensional space. And that was something that you, I feel like, just gave the formula to.
Yeah, it
I,
is. Yes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can
And
we
the
simplify?
funny thing, I'd like to note this to very clearly make sure that this is understood, that it's not a space that we go to. It is bringing heaven to earth. It is us being that. It's a realm of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Consciousness is an awareness in which I am. That's the integrity part. So am I lost in time and space? Well, then I'm lost in the fourth dimension. Am I stuck in the 3D? Oh, I'm just grumble butt, fear, lack, judgment, and no, I can't do anything, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm living as the fifth dimensional consciousness, then the space that I'm living in is the space that I'm creating. And I just want to be clear with that, because I feel like so many people have a belief that it's somewhere we need to go. We need to get there. I don't even know where it is. It's not on the Google Maps. There's no pin drop for that. And so then if we don't have a clear sight of where that is, people start to feel hopeless, helpless, confused, weak, unresourced, under-resourced. So it's not somewhere you go. It's you, how you are in your most natural way of being. And if we can jump through the 4D, and by jumping through the 4D, we just obliterate the concept of time and space, and we become it now. Oh, look, the eternal now, yet again.
I love this. I'm in love with this. I'm going to marry this. But I do like shifting that entire perception, because since we do think quite often so literally, so linearly, we do see the Kundalini as rising through the body. We do see ourselves as moving through time and space. We do see ourselves as leveling up into higher dimensional spaces, rather than having the perception of it just happening in our body and aligning being that key word, so that it's not rising through. We're just aligning with that energy. And then that's simply who we are. It's simply what is, it's what exists, it's what we're vibrating. And that's when we realize it's not something we have to attract or chase or get. It's just what we are. And so it's what we perceive.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And I don't know about you in your circles that you've, experienced, but I tend to find that so many people just feel like they just need to keep on healing. There's just but why am I thinking this thought now? Because people are now aware of their thoughts. Oh, why am I thinking this thought, and where'd this thought come from? And let me spend another eon on my thought forms and why I'm thinking my thoughts. And then the thinker is wondering why the thinker's thinking the thoughts. And then you're in the Russian nesting doll of the mental body, which means then your emotional body gets hijacked by the mental body. So then your magnetic field gets thrown off. Your electric system literally starts to go haywire, and we're no longer in integrity with our energy body. And it's like, if we can just say, you know what if today I'm healed? What if? Like, what if today I'm good? What if today I am perfect? What if today I'm complete? What if today I'm the healthiest that I'll be for this day? What if today is the best I'm ever going to feel? What if today is in fact, my last day?
Mm-hmm.
Back to the grief, back to the death, always recognizing death when we recognize life. It's good stuff. It sucks. It's great.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. And that even goes back to what we were talking about before about people not becoming dependent or reliant on healers or teachers or things like that. And we love being there when you need healing, when you've started your healing path, when you have wounds that you don't know how to navigate necessarily on your own. You felt them, you recognize that you need a little bit of help getting there. And that's why our job is to give you the tools to learn how to reach those spaces, how to observe those spaces, to understand that you being stuck in those trauma spaces are because of beliefs that were created in those trauma spaces, and how you can release those beliefs, create new beliefs, or let go of all beliefs in order to move forward and start aligning your energy into your true self, your higher self, that middle point. There comes a point when we do have to stop over analyzing all of that and let ourselves move on and just be okay. One thing that one of my elders said was, looking back at her life, she did go through a huge healing process, but then looking back, now that she's 70, she said, in those moments that I thought I really needed to heal, I'm realizing now that I was never actually broken in those moments. It was just part of my karmic journey. It was part of me being a human. It was part of me experiencing. But in the moment, I was so fearful and I thought I was so stuck. And I thought, because I felt that I was so broken, that I needed that help to be able to see to the other side. But looking back, she's never broken. And one thing you said was, in those moments, just being able to stop and say, but can I feel? I know you continued that sentence with, I can feel grief and joy at the same time, but there was a pause there that was very pregnant for me. But can I feel right now? Because if I can feel right now, I'm okay. Everything's all right.
Yeah.
We're cool. We're going to get through this. Everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of the story of the Buddha. You know, he was so disappointed when he realized that his father, the king, had been hiding life from him, had only showed him the good things, the golden things, the beauty, the glory. You know, when he went out one day and three spirits visited him and he saw death and pain and suffering and all of the things, he was like, OMG. And he went to his dad and was like, bruh, like, really been hiding this? Like, how dare you? And his dad was like, hey, yo, like, I tried. I was doing the best I could. I'm a parent. And Buddha was like, yeah, deuces, man. And so he left for 12 years, left his wife and his baby for 12 years. And he sat under a tree and he just like sat there, right, waiting for the answers, going through his process, his dark night of the soul, right? Comes back and his wife's like, yo, where'd you go? And his son's like, hey, dad, I don't remember you, but like I hear you're my dad. And the Buddha's like, like I learned what I needed to learn, forgiveness, meditation, all the Zen things. And I also realized that I didn't need to leave. We all go through that in retrospect.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Indonesia and I had a moment. I said, I was asking creator, I was like, did I really have to go to the other side of the world for this? And I just heard and felt this laughter like, yeah, of course you did. Because you wanted to, and I can say that for my really dark times, when I was in Costa Rica during one portion, I needed to really face suicidal ideologies that got imprinted in when I was a very, very young child. And they would make their way come up and then I'd, distract or whatever. And this time I was facing them and feeling them head and heart on. Mm-hmm. And I would go to the ocean every day and pray to the ocean. Is today the day that I go and I swim past the break to see if you take me to my demise, or will you wash me to shore? And I would pray, is today the day? Is today the day that I see if I'm supposed to die? And, I'd cry and I would weep and I'd be like, Mother, show me, and those were dark. That was hard. There's a lot of feeling. And then, in retrospect, right, did I have to do that? Yeah, I guess I did. I guess I, got to face my deepest hate for my life on a beach in Costa Rica. Yeah, it's pretty place to do that, It's not too bad. wasn't like in a snowy mountain in the Himalayas. um, but facing those things gives us the opposite. It's the investment. The time is the investment if we consider time in a retrospective perspective. I was in a marriage for, I don't know, 6, 9 years, whatever. And, that was such an investment.
Yeah.
I invested so much time, and the gifts that gave for my own learning and growth. Could I have skipped it? Could I have pieced out earlier? Yeah. But ultimately, that's where accountability comes in, and that's staying in integrity. Like, I can be accountable. Like, yeah, that's what I chose. I didn't waste that time. No time is wasted. It's just now. We have forever ahead of us.
I love that. That's beautiful. There is something pretty profound about time as currency. It's not forming full words right now, but because I haven't taught on that on a spiritual level, because on a spiritual level, it's like time doesn't matter or exist, but it's very important to me personally. Like I even have this big, I have a big hourglass, that's what it's called, that sits on my altar, and I have no idea why. But I know that I move through timelines. When I heal different timelines. And there's something about my personality where I know that if I'm investing my time into something, it's very important. And I don't invest my time into things that aren't going to grow, so to speak. There's something about investing time into something that makes it grow, that makes it abundant, that makes it flourish, that gives it life. That time is life, because time is what holds the human into the 3D. So there's something about time and life and the currency of that that's so precious and important. So I guess that is just the spiritual word, is that life on earth is important. It is worth living. It is an investment into growth. It's just a currency that we're here to be able to exchange and feel and see.
Yes. And we've been taught, now that you mentioned that, we've been taught that we should only invest time based on what I'm doing now for a future experience.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't been taught about what am I doing in this now and how beautiful of an investment I've made in my past that have given me all that I have right now, the wisdom, the skills, the tools, the this, the that, and the other. So we haven't been taught that, because if we had been taught that, then we would embrace the full potential of the currency. And that full potential, because we would look at the past at what no longer is there, then we would also have to look at death, which is a very important part of nature. Sa, ta, na, ma. Birth, life, death, rebirth. That is it. It's without that key piece, we are missing the fullness of the value of life. And then we don't know how to then invest our own time, because people in our Western culture especially, it's oh, I gotta work until I can retire, and then I can have fun, and then I can live after whatever many years of putting my time in. It's like, let me put my time into this bucket, so there's no death in that. It's just constant output, time in for the reward. And that's when death typically hits people, because they haven't fully embraced it. And life says, you've been missing me, this death. When life says that you've been missing out on death, death will knock in a very one and done kind of way. But if we're willing to embrace the death of like, oh, look, this has to die now. No, I love you so much. I'm so grateful. Goodbye. And moving with that death, then we welcome death's knock. And that's the key to eternal life. Eternal life isn't something that's just after we die. Eternal life is now. The kingdom of heaven is here, right? These are the words. And it's living the eternal life now. It's so accessible, and it's so simple. And yet, the weights of the programming and the weights of the conditioning and the weights of the epigenetic coding that have been turned on in our DNA, we're such brave souls to be able to look at all of this stuff that all has a heart and emotional connection to it. It's not like, oh, look, this program of when I was 5 and I was beaten, we can just unprogram that. That the heart has to unprogram that. Like, God, we are such brave souls as humans. Crazy and brave. And then it cracks me up that it was just a bunch of us walking around doing the same thing. Like,
finding the humor, the oneness of that.
Right. Just me talking to me right now.
We're all doing it. Like, we're all in these houses in a row talking to ourselves and ruminating about our lives, and
cracks me up. Yeah.
Well, Jane, thank you so much for coming on today. I feel like we had an amazing experience and really a heart-connected, heartfelt kind of talk. Is there anything else you want people to know, or do you have any upcoming events or offerings that you want to let anyone know about?
I would love for people to follow me. And that feels so very strange to say, because in the grand scheme of things, like, I need to say, I don't care about followers. Like, I don't need that. And it's the only way to stay connected with me right now because of my pilgrimage nomadic lifestyle. So now that I'm back in the States, I can do pop-up cacao ceremonies and pop-up circles and other events that I hold when I'm here. I love gathering in groups. And then I also have a Patreon community for people that are in alignment with this message, with this lifestyle, with what I'm offering. And you can join that community. Super easy and accessible. And I put all my recordings on there, meditations, classes, and whatnot. So you can follow me at anything Jane the Guide. So janetheguide.com, Jane the Guide on Instagram, Jane the Guide on Facebook. Even the Patreon is the eternal now, though. So, but that's all on my Instagram anyway. But the follow me, I mean, really, that's the way. And if anybody's desiring to work with me one-on-one, I feel like you and I do similar work with people. I mean, truly, which is so fun to like see that. I'm like, yes. I work with people one-on-one to guide them on their path and to activate new genetic patterning and clear their field in a way that they can be so resourced that they can continue to do it. And I typically work with leaders and creators, people that are wanting to do something maybe a little bit new, a little bit different, a little bit like in the highest good for all. So like I work with a lot of people that have nonprofits and things like that are wanting to like have land to not heal, but it's like healing the land. I can't think of the word right now. It doesn't matter. But like doing things that are like big work. So that's how, all that to say. Jane the Guide.
Jane the Guide. And thank you so, so, so much. This has been an amazing experience. We hope to see you again soon on here, but we're sending you much love, much gratefulness. And all of you guys, thank you for watching. We'll connect with you guys soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much.